Hi everyone. I've decided to do a few videos on the Mark III Mondeo ST220 in particular. I'll probably do a couple of videos as well on the TDCi, the ST TDCi. But mainly I think the 220. This is my introduction video, and I just wanted to point out a few things to try and help people when they buy these things, or if they're about to buy them. Because what I'm hearing is people buy these things and they realise that they've got fairly serious issues, problems, and they find it's financially unviable, and they end up breaking them, scrapping them, because they're worth more in parts. And it's a shame really, because they're a lovely car, got a lovely engine in them, that V6, 3-litre V6 Duratec, lovely engine. But they have got, I think, in my opinion, two major flaws with them. One is rot around the back. Some of them do rot pretty bad around the back, usually the earlier models, and also the the engine suffers from oil leaks, and it results in bottom end failure of the engine. It's terminal, and that's it. And usually once people have found out one of those two things about these things, they end up breaking them and they get scrapped. So there weren't that many made in the first place, and there's even less around now because they keep getting scrapped. So this is just a little pointer to let people know what to look out for and how to remedy the other issues as well, that other less important issues, but still can be pricey if you send it into a garage. So that's the other thing. The reason I'm doing these is to help people keep the cost down by not sending it into a garage, because it does get expensive. So these are getting quite rare, the parts are getting quite rare, and genuine Ford parts anyway. And because there's not many of them left now on the shelf, Ford seems to think it's okay to charge what they want for daft things. I'll get into that in a little bit. But so yeah, if you're looking at buying one of these, I would say the first thing to do, my advice, is to buy that. That's your Bible. The other thing to do is to join the ST220 enthusiast group on Facebook. There's a brilliant group, great, informative, friendly people on there, wealth of knowledge. They'll sort you out, they'll point you in the right direction. So yeah, I'll get straight into the rot around the back. Yeah, so that's where you want to be looking, right up in the suspension turret out there. Have a good look around either side where the spring's going up. That's what they call the suspension turret. You want to have a good look around that there. Either side of that, they got plastic wheel liners, which most modern cars have nowadays. That's a little bit more difficult to assess the wheel arch. I'm talking about, because the wheel arch rots as well on these, as well as up in the turret. But I would say the way to check the wheel arch out, one of the easier ways anyway, is to lift the back seat up and look under there, the trim. There's your wheel arch. And if you look right under there, the trim, that's where the wheel arch meets the floor, if you like, all around there. And also go into the boot and take the boot carpet right out, and try and lift this grey carpet forward. Just pull it forward and look up behind the carpet. So obviously you're looking at the inside of the wheel arch. So yeah, it is a bit tricky, but just do the best you can and just have a good look around. Yeah, and then get under the car and have a look at the chassis members. So that there, that box section, that's a chassis member. They go there usually. Sort of around about this point here. I think water must collect somewhere. Also, where the so that's the fuel tank there, plastic fuel tank. So brake lines and fuel lines run between that chassis member and the fuel tank, and you want to try and get up in there and have a look as well. I had a bit of damage around there, which I've cleaned up. Fuel filters there, and all along that edge there they tend to go. Mark 3s. I've had 4 Mark 3s now in my time, so I kind of know my way around these things a little bit. I'm no expert, but yeah, I've done quite a bit of work to them. I've got a diesel as well, TDCI. I use that as my daily. Let me show you around the back as well. Yeah, so that's the subframe there. So last summer when I bought this thing, I stripped the back end out completely. Suspension, subframe, brakes, brake lines, the lot, the exhaust, everything apart from the tank really. That's something I am going to do, but the rest of it all came out, cleaned up, all the corrosion. Any corrosion I found, it was very light surface rust on this one. I was lucky, to be fair. But any light surface corrosion I found, it was all cleaned up and dealt with. I use built hammer products, so springs, shock absorbers, top mounts, brake hoses, brake lines, handbrake cables, the lot, subframe bushes, brackets, as you can see. That's the chassis member I was talking about. And between that chassis member and the fuel tank, look where the pipes are going, that's one of the other places they go. Subframe was taken out, all cleaned up, new bushes, like I say. Got another subframe powder coated, sandblasted and powder coated subframe to go in, new arms, control arms. So, yeah. Put a nice Miltech on it once I finish. Stainless steel Miltech exhaust. It sounds lovely. But yeah, it's, I was fortunate with this one. It is quite clean underneath. But I have had problems there. You know, it's not been easy, straightforward going, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. So yeah, that's a rot around the back. That would be one of the major issues on these things I would be looking for if I was going to buy one of these, or even if you've got one and you haven't really had a good look around underneath it, I would strongly suggest you get under there and have a good look around. Hopefully it'll be alright, just be a little bit of surface rust. But so the other thing as well, these engines. So it's a lovely engine, developed by Porsche. The heads are developed by Cosworth as well, I think, from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. You know, any comments or any remarks that I make, if I'm wrong, let me know. I'm all open to constructive criticism. But they are a good engine, but they have got one flaw really, and that is that they suffer from oil leaks. They suffer quite badly from oil leaks. Yeah, so this one didn't really have any oil leaks as such, not major ones anyway, and the service history was up together. So that would be the two main things I would advise. Get underneath it, check for oil leaks, and also check the service history. If those two check out all right, that's about all you can do really, without whipping the sump off and the oil pickup. So that's what I did. Once I finished doing the rear end restoration, I started on the front. I took the sump off, took the oil pickup off, and I found little metal shavings in the metal galls in the oil pickup. So that rang alarm bells with me, and it went off. Up to Tamworth, Carl Stacey, Dean Gaskell, Auto Infinity, they replaced the bottom end shells for me. bit of preventative maintenance, I think, I hope. So yeah, that's the two main things to look out for. And that these things, what I'm talking about, they're sort of like, you know, terminal, if you like. That's the things that are going to make or break this thing. That's the difference between keeping it and scrapping it, basically. And that's what I've seen a lot of the time. It's usually the rot around the back, to the extent where there's holes and it needs welding, and the engines at it, the bottom end shells go, the bottom end bearings, it starts knocking, and that's it. That's game over, really. You need to start looking for a new engine, a new second-hand or a different second-hand engine. As you can see, I got one there just in case, just to play with, really, more than anything. You know, you don't know what condition the next block's going to be in, the next engine, so it's all a bit of a gamble, really, when they get to this age. So yeah, after that, really, in my opinion, this is, you know, you might disagree, but that's the two things that make or break these things, if you ask me. The other things, there are a few other things that it won't kill the car necessarily. It is stuff that can be done, but it is quite expensive as well. So the coolant system on these things, they've got a oil cooler at the front of the engine by the front cat. That's got a tendency to leak. We've got one there, it's an oil cooler pipe assembly, and you can get silicone hoses for them nowadays. That oil cooler pipe assembly there is 200 quid from Ford. So as you can imagine, you've got to buy that, and then you've got to pay someone to fit it as well. Sort of fairly labour intensive job, because really to do it, the cat, a lot of people say you can do it without taking the cat off, but I don't know, you'd struggle, I think. So I did that myself. So the coolant system is had a new water pump, complete housing pump. It's had a new thermostat housing. It's had the oil cooler assembly and the silicone pipes. The block and the radiator and the matrix has all been flushed out. It's had a real good thorough flushing. It's had a new expansion vessel, and now it's leak free, and it's doing its job. It's doing its job quite well. But all up, I probably spent, the water pump was another 200 quid. The thermostat housing was probably another 50 quid or so. So as you can see, you know, the costs do really start mounting up just on parts alone before you even get somewhere. The expansion vessel was 70 odd quid from memory. This is all genuine Ford stuff, by the way. You can get aftermarket, you can do it cheaper, but I'm trying to keep this thing genuine as possible. So yeah, that was the coolant system. And like I say, the oil cooler pipe assembly and the silicone hoses, or the old rubber hoses to be more exact, that's usually what goes, and that's usually what gives you the leaks on these things. Like I say, I found out quite quick. So another issue with these I just touched on a minute ago, I think, was the fuel pump. So the fuel pump breaks down on these. Again, this is 16 years old, this car, so it is going to happen in a car of this age. Again, a fuel pump assembly from Ford's going to cost you 500 or 600 quid. Then you've got to get it fitted. But what you can do, there's one there. So the blue bit on top is the actual motor in the pump, and that's one of the things that goes. That can be replaced for about 50 or 60 quid. That just goes to show you can do it quite cheaply. So the other thing is, Ford used this pipe, and it goes all brittle and it splits. So this pipe, it attaches to there, and there's one of the other ones over there. So that sits at around quarter of a tank level, splits, gets a hole in it, starts sucking in air, holds back, performance drops. I'm going to fit some of this pipe here when I do mine. It's a bit of an upgrade, so I'm going to put a new motor in mine. I'm going to drop the tank, put a new motor in and fit that pipe, and hopefully that should future-proof that. So that's just an indication of how you can save money, do things a bit cheaper. Collapsed cats, the back cat in particular. So the back cat, so this is a transverse engine obviously, so there's your V, there's your front bank there, look, and the back bank is behind that intake, underneath the intake, look. So the cat sits right round the back, right around the back of here, under here, right down deep. It's difficult to get to, and they got a tendency to collapse when they get to this age and this sort of mileage, and as you can imagine, it's a difficult job. It's hard to get to, labour intensive if you're going to send it to a garage. They don't actually make the cats anymore, so it's going to have to be aftermarket as well. That's the other thing. So yeah, that's another one. Unfortunately, that might, you can buy second-hand cats, but what are they going to be like? So if I find I've got problems with mine, I'm going to just have to go aftermarket, get something bespoke made up, I think. Rear wheel hub assemblies, they go on these things, all Mark III's, they're all the same. The wheel hubs on the back are all the same. You're usually talking about £100 a side. I always do things in pairs, and that's for SKF. I would go SKF. That's what Ford fitted from new, so I would do that. You can get cheapers off online but I honestly don't think they're worth bothering with. Just go SKF. They're decent. If you're going to keep the car, go SKF. Snap suspension springs. I've replaced all these on this one now. The backs were actually alright intact, but they were a bit corroded, so I was a bit worried they were going to fracture. I ended up fitting Sachs aftermarket springs on the back, which was a bit of a mistake. So like I say, when that back end comes apart again, I'm going to be fitting genuine Ford. So I've got a couple of genuine Ford rear suspension springs, which are very rare now. You can't get hold of them. I think this might be the last pair in the country. I think Bristol Ford have got one on the shelf, but I wanted a pair, so they'll be going on. It's got new shock absorbers on the back as well, top mounts. So once I've put those on, that'll be a complete new suspension setup on the back. Similar with the front. So last summer, when I took the front apart, I found one of the front springs had snapped, so I replaced the springs, but I didn't replace the shock absorbers. Changed the top mounts, but for some reason I think I was being tight, so that's something else I've had to source and find. So there's a couple of new genuine, so they were 90 quid a piece, 180 quid for the pair. So you can see where I'm going with all this. 300 quid for those, 180 quid for the shocks. The price of the fuel pump, genuine Ford fuel pump assembly, it just gets ridiculous. It's just, and this is what I'm getting at, this is what these videos are all about. Rear subframe bushes, that's another common one on these. And again, if you take it into a garage, it's going to be sharp intake of breath. Oh, that's a big job, that's going to cost you a lot of money. That is, nah, not really. I mean, I did it first on my diesel and it was a bit daunting, to be honest, but it's not that bad if you take your time. Do a bit of research before you do it. That's a subframe, that's the rear. They call it the suspension what do they call it? Cross member. Yeah, suspension cross member they call it, but everyone else just calls it a subframe. So this is where the bushes go. That sits on the back end. That's the back end of the subframe. So that sits on the underside. That's close to the underside of the car, I should say. What happens is the rubber in the bushes, they fell, and this edge, this face, gets close to the underside of the car, and it starts making a horrible crashing noise when you go over bumps. So yeah. So yeah, it's doable. You know, it's not a difficult job, not really. Like I say, you've just got to do a little bit of research and take your time. Once you've done it once, it's like anything, you know. Once you've done it once, it's all right. It's not a problem. So I think that's the big things and the big doable things that you can save a lot of money on. The items I've just mentioned. Some of the minor things are the doors leak. So there's a wet door system on these. So water is supposed to get inside the door, but there's supposed to be a waterproof membrane behind that door card, but that loses its waterproof qualities over time. And what happens is water collects just there on the door sill. It puddles just there, spills over, gets your car a bit wet, and all of a sudden your car's steaming up in the winter. It's like Windermere in your driver footwell. There's a quick and easy fix. Well, it's not so quick, but it's an easy fix for that. Take the door card off, get rid of the grey membrane. You've got to strip the insides of the door out, to be fair, and fit polythene, thick polythene. You go around the edges with butyl tape as well. So that usually solves it. I've done that now a couple of times. I've done it on the diesel, and that's worked. But unfortunately, it seems to be all of the doors, because they've all got this this grey foam membrane that I'm talking about, which gives up after a while. It's where, you know, screws have gone into it, and the screws have tightened up into it, and basically water just starts seeping through. And on that, if you are, you know, clever, you can change the window regulators while you're there. So the window regulators inside the door, that makes the electric window go up and down. They go. It's like a wire driven thing, and the wires snap. Not expensive. Again, they're usually about 30 quid a side, 30 quid a piece. It's usually the two front ones that go. So if you've got to do that job, if you've got a leaky front door, it's a good idea to change the window regulator at the same time while you've got it all apart. And also, while you've got it apart, it might be worth checking the wing mirror. The powerfold wing mirrors play up on these sometimes, because they don't get used very often. I don't hardly ever use mine, but yeah, they stop working. They seize in one position, usually in the closed position, so you can't drive, which is a bit of a pain. But yeah, it's not major. Heated seat elements as well. They got heated seats in the fronts. This is the ST. Some of them got them in the back as well. But anyway, basically they're heated seat elements. They break, so they don't heat anymore. For me, that's not. I don't even use them in the winter, to be honest. I very rarely use them. I got them in the Derv, and I very rarely use them. I think it's weird, to be honest, having heated seats. But yeah, you know, a lot of people go on about that, and they want to get them working again. I suppose it all depends what floats your boat. But yeah, for me, it's not a biggie at all. Another common one with these is the saggy ass syndrome. So basically, the back bumper drops, and the gap between the back light cluster and the bumper opens up. And the way to remedy that is take that plastic trim off there, jack the bumper up so it closes that gap up between the light and the bumper, and put a couple of screws, drilling tap through there into the crash bar behind, and then that solves it. So that's quite an easy one. That's quite an easy fix. And I think that is about it. But those two main ones I talked about right at the beginning, all the rot around the back. If you've got, if you see a car and it's got holes in and all the rest of it, then you know you need to be seriously considering whether you want to be getting into that. You know, there's a lot of people say, oh yeah, it can be done, it can be welded up and all the rest of it. And yeah, it probably can, but I question the structural integrity of the car, and you know, what other rot can't you see within the cavities of, you know, these chassis members and that, because there's a fair bit of box section underneath the car, most cars, and you just can't see what's going on inside. So you could spend a load of money getting a load of welding done and still have corrosion in places that you can't see. And you know, for me personally, I don't really want to be driving around in a car like that. I'd rather buy one that's, you know, not got a lot of visual rot, so therefore it gives you an indication that is still solid, you know, from factory. And that's, I think, a far better way to start with these things. Again, the engine is a little bit more difficult to diagnose, those bottom end shells, but you know, if you just stick with the common sense thing, check it for oil leaks, check the service history, and perhaps if you have bought one with high mileage, then you know, it might be an idea to whip the sump off, oil pickup, and change those bottom end shells just as preventative maintenance. It might save you aggro down the line. So yeah, like I said, I don't know all about these. I'm open to constructive criticism. If anything I've said is wrong or you don't agree, then let me know. If you've got a different way of doing things going forward when I start doing videos, if you think how I'm doing it is wrong or there's a better way of doing it, let me know. I haven't got a problem with that at all. But like I say, I've owned one of these since 2008 and I've been crawling around underneath them ever since, doing stuff. Mainly because I like them. I think they're good value for money cars. They're excellent value for money for what you get for them. You'd be hard pushed to be. I was considering buying a 330 diesel BM, but you start looking at how much they cost to buy and how much they cost to service and all the rest of it. It's just extortionate. I can't bring myself to do it. So like I say, I got the TDCI as well, which is brilliant workhorse. I love it. Absolutely love it. Like see, I love the performance blue as well. So the TDCI is performance blue as well. I think it's the best colour. TDCI's got 190k on the clock now. This is the alternator clutch pulley job I'm doing at the moment. This is just a test fit on an old alternator. I need to get the tensioner kit as well. I'm going to go SKF on that. I've recently cleaned the injectors as well on it. Stripped them down, put them in the ultrasonic bath. It was a bit lumpy going back in the winter, last winter. When I started up in the morning, it was smoking and getting a bit lumpy. I've been using fuel additive for a long time, but yeah, it's got to the point now where yeah, I needed to do something about it. So I took each injector out one at a time, stripped them down, put them in the ultrasonic cleaner, put them back, and yeah, it's made a hell of a difference. Again, you know, a lot of people talk about refurbed injectors, which, you know, yeah, you can do that. That's all good. Is it DF Jones or DF Jones, I think it is, do them, and they guarantee them for a certain amount of time. But you're talking 400 quid plus. So yeah, I'll just show you a minute. The diesel. Yeah, there she is. Just give her a wash. 190k. I've done most of that. I think I bought it with 60k on the clock, 60,000 miles. Now it's got 190. So she still drives spot on, absolutely spot on. Pulls like a train. I know that's a cliche. People keep saying it, but it does. You know, you get it on the motorway or the open road, and you put your foot down, it just goes. There's so many people with surprised looks on their faces when they see an old Mondeo pass them. I have done a few things to it, to be fair. It's had a remap. It's had an EGR delete. Some of the intercooler pipes I've replaced. It's got aftermarket panel filter in it. You know, a few other bits and pieces. Like I say, I've just had the injectors out and put them in the ultrasonic cleaner and clean them up. Make sure I change the oil on it every year, regardless. Ford say every 12,500 miles, but I'm doing it less than 10 now. I'm doing it 8,000 or 9,000 miles, changing the oil filter, Yeah, just giving it a good old service. Never let me down. Never let me down, that thing. Only daft things like flat battery, things like that. Yeah, so as you can see, is a bit of a thing for me, the Mark III Mondeo. Don't need to say any more, really, do I? But yeah, going back to the videos and stuff. Like I say, there is a bit of a community for these things now, especially the ST220. It's quite a following for them, and I genuinely want to see these things stay around a bit longer. I don't really like the rate at which these things are getting scrapped at the moment, and some of them, I'm not saying all of them, but some of them, they're nice cars that are getting scrapped. I mean, some people, because they can't really afford to repair them and stuff, and obviously to resell them on with the, just say the bottom end of the engine's gone, it's got a bottom end knock, obviously that vehicle is not worth a lot at all. So from a financial point of view, for them it's better to break them, get their money back, but that's not in the interest of the car, as you can see. But yeah, this is just a shame. It is a crying shame, really. But these good ones, if the good ones can stay around for a bit longer, then all well and good. But this is an ongoing thing for me. It's sort of my hobby, really. I'll be getting this thing in here at the end of the summer. Come autumn time, I'm going to get this in, get the front up in the air, get the front subframe down. I think the clutch is on his way out. The clutch bite's quite high. So subframe off, sandblasted, powder coated. Steering rack's going to come off, refurbed. I'm going to fit the 2 new shock absorbers in the springs, and the struts. Check out that back cat as well, and get the gearbox off, change the clutch, dual mass, the lot. Could do as much as I possibly can when I got the front end apart. I've already had had a good look at the front end, but I'm going to go a bit further this time, get that subframe down and really have a good look. And then the following winter, so the winter 23-24, I'll start on the back again, because I want to change those springs, get the original springs in there. And also I want to address the fuel pump, or not address it, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, to be honest, but yeah, I'm gonna change the motor and the fuel pump and upgrade those fuel hoses as well. So again, future proof it. So yeah, I'll probably be doing a couple more videos, one on rust prevention and treatment. So that would be a good one for these things. And yeah, probably a couple of videos on the DERV as well, the diesel. Like I say, this would probably be the next one, to be honest with you, because the auxiliary belt on that thing at the moment is making a bit of a horrible noise. It's squeaking away a good one at the moment, especially when I got the air conditioning on. So yeah, that'll be the next video, I expect. But yeah, so until then, cheers.